Major Omar Bradley stood at the observation window of Luna Base, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as he stared out at the stars. 20 years in the United States Space Force had taught him to trust his instincts, and right. Now those instincts were screaming that something was wrong. "Major Bradley, they're requesting your presence in the command center," said a young officer behind him. Bradley nodded without turning. "I'll be right there." The halls of Luna Base buzzed with excitement. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally made contact with intelligent alien life. The Vordax Collective had arrived in Earth's orbit 3 days ago in a ship that made Earth's largest vessels look like toys. In the command center, screens displayed the massive alien vessel. It was smooth and blue, shaped like a curved blade and nearly 5 miles long. Bradley studied it carefully as he entered, noting the strange patterns on its hull that seemed to shift and change. "Major Bradley," called Admiral Foster. "Good, you're here. The Vordax representatives will dock in 30 minutes. As our most experienced tactical officer, you'll be part of the welcome team." Susan Clark, the diplomatic officer assigned to the first contact mission, approached with a tablet. "Major, I've been studying their initial communications. Their language is complex, but they've provided a translation matrix that allows us to communicate." Bradley took the tablet, scanning the information. "Any red flags?" Clark hesitated. "Nothing specific, but some of the translations seem off, like they're using words that almost fit but miss some important context." "Show me," Bradley said. She pointed to several phrases where the aliens had described their civilization. They keep using the word integration when talking about other species they've encountered. Their translator defines it as peaceful cultural exchange. But the usage pattern suggests something different. Bradley frowned. He had seen this before, not with aliens but in human conflicts. Words chosen carefully to hide true intentions. "Keep digging, Clark. I want to know exactly what they mean by integration." The docking bay was prepared for the historic meeting. Earth's leaders watched via video link as the Vordax shuttle approached Luna Base. Bradley stood beside Admiral Foster and Susan Clark, his uniform crisp, his expression neutral despite his concerns. The shuttle was smaller than expected, a sleek, blue pod that glided into the docking bay without any visible propulsion. When the doors opened, the humans got their first look at the Vordax. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Each had 4 arms and large compound eyes that reflected the room in hundreds of tiny facets. They wore simple white garments that flowed around their slender bodies. "We greet you in peace," said the lead alien, its voice melodic and strange. "I am Coordinator Zell of the Vordax Collective. We are pleased to begin integration discussions with your species." There was that word again. Bradley watched carefully as Admiral Foster stepped forward with prepared remarks about friendship and cooperation. The alien's eyes moved constantly, scanning everything, everyone. Not the curious gaze of explorers, Bradley thought, but the calculating assessment of strategists. After formal introductions, the Vordax presented gifts, small crystal devices that projected beautiful images of distant worlds. "These are some of the civilizations who have joined our collective," Zell explained. "All thriving, all at peace." Bradley studied the images closely. The diverse alien species shown in the projections all seemed content, but there was something uniform about their settlements, their behaviors, like pieces carefully arranged on a game board. Later, as the Vordax were given a tour of Luna Base, Bradley pulled communications specialist Alan Rodriguez aside. "I need you to do something unofficially," Bradley said quietly. "Monitor all transmissions from the Vordax ship. Everything, even background frequencies we wouldn't normally check." Rodriguez looked surprised. "Sir, that's beyond protocol for a diplomatic mission." "I know. That's why I'm not making it an order. But if you trust my judgment, do it anyway." Rodriguez had served with Bradley during the asteroid conflicts. He nodded once. "I'll need help to cover that much bandwidth without being noticed. Talk to Dr. Patterson in xenobiology. She's already concerned about some of their biological readings. She'll help." In the following days, Earth celebrated the historic first Contact. The Vordax were invited to establish an embassy in Geneva, and plans were made for human representatives to visit their ship. Through it all, Bradley watched and waited. 1 week after first contact, Rodriguez found him in the gym at 0300 hours. Bradley was alone, punching a heavy bag with controlled force. He stopped when he saw Rodriguez's face. "You found something," Bradley said. Rodriguez handed him a secured tablet. "It's encrypted, and the translation is rough, but we caught this, being transmitted to their ship during last night's cultural exchange event." Bradley read the partial message, his face hardening. Assessment phase proceeding as planned. Human defenses minimal compared to collective standards. Major population centers mapped for initial phase of integration. Resistance expected to be limited and disorganized. "There's more," Rodriguez said. Dr. Patterson analyzed the refreshments they provided at the reception. They contain microscopic devices, too small to be harmful individually, but they're designed to collect biological data. She thinks they're mapping human weaknesses. Bradley set down the tablet. "They're not explorers. They're advanced scouts." "For what?" "An invasion," Bradley said grimly. "And we've just given them a guided tour of our defenses." Bradley called an urgent meeting with his trusted circle: Rodriguez, Dr. Olivia Patterson, and Susan Clark. They met in a maintenance room that Patterson had confirmed was free of surveillance. "The Vordax Collective has conquered dozens of species," Bradley explained, showing them additional intercepted communications. "They call it integration because the civilizations are absorbed into their collective. Those who resist are eliminated. Those who surrender become essentially client species." "We need to take this to Earth Command," Clark insisted. "With what proof?" Bradley asked. "Partial transmissions and suspicions? The governments of Earth are celebrating what they think is the greatest moment in human history. They're not going to shut it down because of our concerns. So what do we do?" Rodriguez asked. Bradley's eyes were cold with determination. "We gather irrefutable evidence. The Vordax believe we're simple, trusting creatures who will welcome them with open arms until it's too late to resist. That's their first mistake." "And their second?" Patterson asked, underestimating how far one human will go to protect his species. Bradley pulled up a schematic of the Vordax vessel on his tablet. "I'm going to need access to their ship. And for that, I'll need all of you." As the others looked at each other with uncertainty and growing resolve, Bradley began outlining his plan. Outside the window, Earth hung in the blackness of space, beautiful and vulnerable, its people unaware of the danger that had arrived with promises of friendship. The name Omar Bradley was unknown to the Vordax Collective, but soon it would be the name they feared above all others. 2 weeks after the Vordax arrived, Bradley sat in a small room beneath the old Rocky Mountain complex in Colorado. Maps and data screens covered the walls. The abandoned military bunker had become their secret base of operations, unknown to the Vordax or even to Earth Command. "The embassies are operational in Geneva, Tokyo, and Nairobi," said Naval Intelligence Officer Dwayne Johnson, pointing to locations on a digital map. "The Vordax have also established cultural centers in 23 other major cities." Bradley studied the pattern. "They're positioning themselves near power centers and population hubs. Classic invasion prep." Computer specialist Kate Miller looked up from her workstation. "I've been analyzing the data from those microscopic devices Dr. Patterson found. They're more than just information gatherers." She pulled up a magnified image on the main screen. "These are nanobots capable of receiving signals. Once activated, they could interfere with human nervous systems. Mass incapacitation," Bradley said grimly. "How many people have been exposed?" "Millions," Miller replied. "The Vordax have been distributing them through their friendship gifts and at every public event they attend." Dr. Patterson entered the room, her face pale with lack of sleep. "I've developed a countermeasure," she said, holding up a small device. "It creates a field that disrupts the nanobots, but we only have materials to make a few hundred, nowhere near enough to protect everyone." Bradley nodded. "We focus on protecting key military and infrastructure personnel first. Johnson, coordinate with your contacts. people you trust completely, to distribute these discreetly. Yes, sir, Johnson said. What about getting the word out? We have evidence now. Not enough, Bradley replied. We need more, something so clear that even the politicians won't be able to ignore it. A message alert sounded from Rodriguez's terminal. His face darkened as he read it. Sir, Lieutenant Gregory Peck is dead. Bradley's jaw tightened. Peck had been his protege, a brilliant young officer who Bradley had secretly assigned to monitor the Vordax embassy in Geneva. Official cause? Bradley asked. Accident. His car went off a mountain road in Switzerland last night. Bradley closed, his eyes briefly. He was too careful for accidents. What was he working on? Unknown, sir. His last message said he'd found something important in the embassy's waste disposal system. Bradley stood up and faced his team. We're running out of time. The Vordax are eliminating potential threats, which means they're moving to the next phase. He turned to Rodriguez. Any word from your contact at the Lunar Communication Array? Rodriguez nodded. The Vordax are sending encrypted bursts to somewhere beyond our solar system. High-volume data transfers. My contact thinks they're reporting back to their fleet. Bradley's suspicions were confirmed. The Vordax in Earth's orbit were just the advance team. The main invasion force was waiting for their signal. We need to move now, Bradley said. Miller, finalize the countermeasure production. Patterson, prepare the biological evidence. Johnson, secure our transport to Washington. I'm going to meet with Admiral Montgomery. Admiral Elaine Montgomery had been Bradley's commanding officer during the asteroid conflicts. Now she headed Earth's combined space defense forces. Her office overlooked the Potomac River, a place of power and politics far removed from the front lines Bradley preferred. You understand what you're suggesting, Major? Montgomery said after Bradley presented their evidence. You're accusing our first alien visitors of planning a hostile takeover of Earth. The evidence speaks for itself, Admiral, Bradley replied. The nanobots alone could be medical monitors, as they claim, Montgomery interrupted. Your interpretation is just that, an interpretation. Bradley leaned forward. Peck is dead. He was investigating the Vordax. An unfortunate accident, according to Swiss authorities. Montgomery sighed. Omar, I've known you too long not to take your concerns seriously. But the Diplomatic Corps and 3 separate international committees have vetted the Vordax. They've shared medical technology that's already saving lives. It's how they operate, Bradley insisted. They give gifts to lower our guard while positioning for attack. Montgomery was quiet for a moment. What would you have me do? Mobilize Earth's military against them based on encrypted messages you shouldn't have been monitoring, and some microscopic robots you think might be weapons? Just delay the upcoming technology exchange, Bradley said. Give us time to gather more concrete evidence. I can't. The Secretary General himself is overseeing the exchange. The Vordax are offering faster-than-light travel technology, Omar. Do you understand what that means for humanity? Bradley stood. It means nothing if we're all enslaved or dead. Montgomery's face hardened. Major, I'm ordering you to stand down. Turn over all your evidence to official channels and return to Luna Base immediately. Bradley saw in her eyes that further argument was useless. Politics had won over caution. Yes, Admiral, he said stiffly. As he left the Pentagon, Bradley knew he had just used up his last official option. Now they would have to act outside the chain of command. Back at the Colorado bunker, Bradley briefed his team on the failed meeting. So we're on our own, Miller said quietly. Not entirely, Bradley replied. Montgomery didn't order us to stop investigating. She just wants us to use official channels, which are compromised or too slow. What's our move, sir? Asked Rodriguez. Bradley activated the main display, showing the massive Vordax ship in Earth orbit. We go to the source. The only way to get irrefutable evidence is from inside their vessel. The room fell silent. Johnson was the first to recover. You're talking about infiltrating an alien spacecraft? That's impossible. No, Bradley said. Difficult, but not impossible. The Vordax have invited a human delegation to tour their ship next week. 3 of us will be on that tour. They'll recognize you, Patterson pointed out. Not after your camouflage. Treatments, Bradley said. And we'll have help. He nodded to Rodriguez, who brought up an image of a Space Force pilot. This is Captain Maria Sanchez, Bradley explained. She's been assigned to fly the diplomatic shuttle. She served under me during the Mars crisis and owes me her life. She'll get us aboard. And once we're there? Johnson asked. We find evidence of their true intentions, access their central database, and get out, with proof so clear that even the politicians can't ignore it. We'll need someone who can move quickly through their security systems, Miller said. Their tech is far advanced from ours. Already covered, Bradley replied, bringing up another image. Former Marine Frank Williams, now the best private security consultant on Earth. He's dealt with more alien technology than anyone since first contact. Bradley looked around at his team. I won't lie to you. This mission, Operation Trojan Horse, is unsanctioned and extremely dangerous. Anyone who comes with me is risking their career and possibly their life. Johnson stood first. After, what happened to Peck, I'm in. The others nodded their agreement one by one. Good, Bradley said, because according to our latest intercepts, we have less than 2 weeks before the main Vordax fleet arrives. Whatever they're planning starts then. Outside the bunker, snow fell on the Colorado mountains, covering the entrance to their hidden base. Above, the stars shone cold and distant, one of them now marked by the approaching Vordax fleet, coming to claim Earth as their next conquest. The diplomatic shuttle approached the massive Vordax ship hanging in Earth's orbit. Inside the shuttle, Bradley checked his disguise once more. Dr. Patterson's biological camouflage had changed his appearance enough to avoid immediate recognition. He now had darker skin, a fuller face, and different eye color. The credentials identified him as Cultural Attaché Richard Winters. Beside him sat Johnson, similarly disguised as a diplomatic aide, while Frank Williams completed their team as a technical advisor. Captain Maria Sanchez piloted the shuttle, her face tense but determined. Coming up on final approach, Sanchez announced over the shuttle's comm. Remember, I can only give you 4 hours before departure protocols force me to leave, with or without you. Understood, Bradley replied. Just be ready when we call. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Through the viewport, Bradley could see the receiving area. A large chamber bathed in blue light where 3 Vordax representatives waited. Showtime, Williams muttered. The legitimate diplomatic team, unaware of the infiltrators among them, led the way off the shuttle. The head diplomat, a tall man named Richard Harris, greeted the Vordax with practiced politeness. Welcome. Aboard the Harmony, said the lead Vordax, its multifaceted eyes sweeping over the humans. I am Overseer Malk. We are honored to share our home with you. Bradley kept his face neutral, though the word harmony struck him as particularly ironic for a warship. He stayed toward the back of the group, observing everything. The Vordax vessel's interior was smoother than human ships, with curved corridors and pulsing lights that seemed to follow them. The tour proceeded as expected, the Vordax showing carefully selected areas designed to impress. Bradley noted how they avoided questions about certain sections of the ship, particularly the lower levels. After 40 minutes, the group reached a large chamber filled with what appeared to be artwork and artifacts. This is our Gallery of Unity, Overseer Malk explained. Items from many civilizations that have joined the collective. While the diplomats admired the alien artifacts, Bradley gave a subtle nod to Williams and Johnson. It was time to make their move. When the group shifted to a new display, the 3 men deliberately fell behind, then slipped down a side corridor that wasn't part of the tour. Williams quickly accessed a terminal on the wall, connecting a small device of Dr. Patterson's design. I'm in, he whispered after a moment. Internal schematics downloaded. Central database is 23 levels down. Security systems? Bradley asked. Heavy, but mostly automated. Their actual security personnel are minimal. They don't expect anyone to be aboard without permission. Bradley consulted the schematic. We'll take this maintenance shaft down to level 16, then use the secondary corridors to reach the central core. Johnson, keep monitoring tour communications. We need to know if they realize we're missing. The three men moved quickly through the alien ship. The maintenance shaft was narrow, designed for the slender Vordax bodies, making it a tight fit for the humans. They descended in silence, emerging on level 16 into a dimly lit corridor. This way, Williams indicated, consulting his device. They passed several chambers filled with unfamiliar equipment. Through one doorway, Bradley saw rows of tanks containing swirling liquid. Inside each tank floated what appeared to be organs, human organs. "My God," Johnson whispered. Bradley's jaw tightened. "They're studying us, learning our weaknesses." They continued deeper into the ship. On level 20, they encountered their first security drone, a floating sphere with multiple sensors. Williams quickly pulled them into a recessed doorway as it passed. 7 more levels, he whispered once the drone was gone. On level 22, they found something that stopped them cold. A vast chamber stretched before them, containing hundreds of transparent cells. Inside each cell was a simulation of Earth environments, offices, homes, schools. And in each simulation were creatures that looked almost human, but not quite. Practice targets, Bradley realized. They're training for occupation. Williams examined a control panel. These are fully programmed scenarios. Look, resistance, suppression, population processing, resource extraction. Johnson took photos with a concealed camera. "This is the evidence we need." "Not enough," Bradley said grimly. "We need their complete invasion plan." They finally reached level 23 and the central database access point, a large chamber with crystalline structures connected to terminals. Williams went to work immediately, connecting their extraction device to the alien system. "This will take a few minutes," he said. "Their security is complex." Bradley and Johnson stood guard. Through a large viewport nearby, Bradley could see Earth shining blue and green in the darkness. So vulnerable, so unaware of what was coming. "I'm in," Williams finally said, downloading their command protocols, and he stopped suddenly, his face paling. "Major, you need to see this." Bradley looked at the screen. Even through the alien symbols, the meaning was clear. The main Vordax fleet wasn't coming in 2 weeks. It was already here, hiding on the far side of the moon. The invasion was scheduled to begin in less than 72 hours. "Download everything," Bradley ordered. "We need to—" An alarm blared through the ship, the lights shifting to a pulsing red. "They've discovered we're missing from the tour," Johnson reported, checking his communicator. Williams worked frantically. 60% downloaded. Need another 2 minutes. "We don't have 2 minutes," Bradley said, as heavy footsteps approached from a connecting corridor. "Johnson, with me." Williams finished the download. Bradley and Johnson took positions on either side of the entrance. When 2 Vordax security officers rushed in, Bradley struck first, driving his shoulder into the nearest alien. Despite their slender appearance, the Vordax were surprisingly strong. The alien's forearms grappled with Bradley, trying to restrain him. Johnson engaged the second Vordax, using the hand-to-hand combat techniques they had practiced. The alien's different physiology made traditional fighting moves less effective, but Johnson adapted quickly. Bradley broke free from his opponent's grip and delivered a powerful blow to what they had identified as a vulnerable spot in Vordax anatomy, the neural cluster at the base of their neck. The alien stumbled back, its movements becoming uncoordinated. More alarms sounded. The ship was going into full lockdown. "Download complete," Williams called. "Move out," Bradley ordered. Back to the extraction point. They ran through the corridors, following the route they had planned. 2 more security drones appeared, firing energy weapons that scorched the walls near them. Williams shot back with a modified pulse gun, disabling one drone while Bradley and Johnson took cover. "We've got company ahead too," Johnson warned, checking his scanner. "At least 4 Vordax blocking our path to the shuttle bay." "Alternate route," Bradley decided, leading them down a side passage. As they reached a junction, a plasma bolt struck Williams in the leg. He fell with a cry of pain as more Vordax security forces appeared behind them. "Go!" Williams shouted, tossing the data device to Bradley. "I'll hold them off." Bradley hesitated for only a moment before making the hard decision. Johnson, Help me. Together they pulled Williams into another corridor, sealing the door behind them. Bradley applied a quick field dressing to Williams' wound while Johnson checked their position. We can still reach the shuttle through maintenance access J7, Johnson said. Bradley helped Williams to his feet. Stay with us, Marine. That's an order. As they moved toward their extraction point, Bradley contacted Captain Sanchez. Prepare for emergency departure. We have the package and we're coming in hot. Behind them, the Vordak security forces were gaining ground. Time was running out. Bradley, Johnson, and the injured Williams moved through the narrow maintenance tunnels of the Vordak ship. Williams struggled to keep pace, his face pale from the plasma wound in his leg. Just a little further, Bradley encouraged him, supporting his weight. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The Vordak security forces were closing in. Sir, Williams gasped, you need to leave me. I'm slowing you down. Not happening, Bradley said firmly. We all go home. They reached a junction point. Johnson checked the schematic on his device. Shuttle bay is 2 levels up from here. A plasma bolt struck the wall near them, sending sparks flying. Bradley turned and fired back with Williams's pulse gun, forcing the Vordak's troops to take cover. Go, Bradley ordered. I'll hold them here and follow. Johnson hesitated for only a moment before helping Williams toward the access ladder. Bradley maintained suppressing fire until they were clear, then prepared to follow. As he turned, a plasma bolt caught him in the side. The pain was immediate and intense, like being stabbed with a white-hot blade. Bradley gritted his teeth and climbed, the ladder one-handed, his side burning with every movement. At the top, Johnson waited to help him. You're hit, Johnson said, seeing the scorched uniform and the blood beneath. I noticed, Bradley replied. Keep moving. They hurried through the final stretch of corridor. Ahead, they could see the shuttle bay. Captain Sanchez stood at the shuttle's open hatch, pulse rifle in hand, providing cover fire as Vordak security forces converged from multiple directions. Move, 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 she shouted. Johnson helped Williams aboard first, then turned to assist Bradley. As they reached the shuttle, a barrage of plasma fire erupted around them. Bradley pushed Johnson inside and turned to return fire, giving Sanchez time to get to the cockpit. The shuttle's engines roared to life as Bradley finally stumbled aboard, slamming his hand on the hatch control. The door sealed just as plasma bolts struck the exterior, leaving scorch marks on the reinforced hull. Hang on, Sanchez called from the cockpit. This won't be a gentle departure. The shuttle broke free from its docking clamps and shot out of the bay, rocking violently as the Vordak ship's defense systems activated. Sanchez executed a series of evasive maneuvers, her skills as a pilot evident as she navigated through the energy blasts directed at them. Bradley made his way to the cockpit, grimacing with each step. Get us to the dark side of Earth. We need to transmit this data immediately. We have pursuit, Sanchez reported, nodding toward the scanner. 2 Vordax interceptors. Can we outrun them? Not a chance, but I might be able to lose them in Earth's atmosphere. Bradley nodded. Do it. The shuttle plunged toward Earth, heat building around the hull as they entered the atmosphere at a steeper angle than was technically safe. The Vordax interceptors followed, firing periodically. Sanchez guided the shuttle into a heavy cloud bank over the Pacific Ocean, descending rapidly before making a sharp turn toward the North American continent. One of the interceptors lost them in the clouds, but the other stayed on their tail. I can't shake the second one, Sanchez said through gritted teeth. Bradley turned to Johnson, who was tending to Williams's wound. Get on the comm. Contact Patterson and Miller at the bunker. Tell them to prepare for data transmission and to alert any military contacts they can trust. Johnson nodded and moved to the communication station. Bradley returned his attention to their pursuit. Captain, can you get us to the Montana facility? It has the most powerful transmitter in North America. With our fuel state and that interceptor behind us? It'll be close, Sanchez replied. The shuttle raced across the Pacific and over the western coast of the United States. The Vordax interceptor stayed with them, occasionally firing when it had a clear shot. Sanchez kept their flight path low, using mountain ranges and weather patterns for cover when possible. As they approached Montana, Bradley received a message from Patterson. Major, we've alerted Admiral Montgomery. She's mobilizing forces based on our preliminary information. but she needs the full data package to convince world governments. We're heading to the Montana transmitter now, Bradley replied. Have Miller ready to receive and distribute the data the moment we transmit. The Montana Deep Space Communications Facility came into view, a complex of massive satellite dishes and antennas in a remote valley. Sanchez brought the shuttle in low, aiming for the central landing pad. They've cleared us for emergency landing, Johnson reported. Suddenly, the shuttle rocked violently as the Vordax interceptor scored a direct hit on their engine. Warning alarms blared throughout the cabin. We're losing power, Sanchez shouted, fighting with the controls. Brace for impact. She managed to keep the shuttle level as they descended rapidly toward the facility. With remarkable skill, she guided the damaged craft onto the landing pad, where it skidded across the concrete before coming to a stop. Everyone out, Bradley ordered as smoke began filling the cabin. Facility security teams rushed toward them as they evacuated the shuttle. Johnson and a security officer helped Williams, while Bradley stumbled out last, his wound bleeding freely now. Major Bradley? A surprised facility commander approached. We were told to expect a diplomatic shuttle in distress. No time to explain, Bradley said. The Vordax interceptor will be here any minute. Get your air defenses online and take it down if possible. He handed the commander the data device. This needs to be transmitted immediately to these coordinates. Maximum encryption, full bandwidth. The commander nodded and gave the device to a waiting technician who ran toward the main building. Bradley looked up as the Vordax interceptor appeared in the sky above them. Get everyone to shelter, now. Security teams hurried Williams and the others toward a bunker. Bradley started to follow but stopped when he saw the interceptor launch what appeared to be a much larger weapon than before. They're going to destroy the transmitter, he realized. Without hesitation, Bradley changed direction, running toward the facility's defense control center. His side burned with each step, but he pushed through the pain. He reached the control room just as the facility's technicians were attempting to activate the defense grid. Target solution in 40 seconds, one called out. Too long, Bradley said. He pushed past them to the manual control station. With experienced hands, he quickly calibrated the defense laser and fired. The beam struck the interceptor's weapon, causing it to detonate prematurely. The explosion rocked the interceptor, sending it spiraling away. Major, Johnson's voice came over the comm. The data transmission has begun. Estimated completion time is 12 minutes. Bradley checked the radar. More Vordax ships were appearing in orbit. They know what we're doing, he said. They'll send everything they have to stop that transmission. He turned to the facility. Staff, I need every defensive system you have online now and get me Admiral Montgomery. Admiral Montgomery's face appeared on the main screen of the Montana facility's command center. Her expression changed from anger to concern when she saw Bradley's bloodied condition. Major, you look terrible, she said. No time for that, Admiral, Bradley replied. The data we're sending proves everything. The Vordax are launching a full-scale invasion in less than 72 hours. Montgomery nodded sharply. I've already seen the first packets. Multiple defense forces worldwide are being mobilized. But Bradley, there's something else in that data. Something about their neural network. Yes, Bradley confirmed. Dr. Patterson discovered they operate on a hive mind system. Their ships and soldiers are all connected through a central neural frequency. It's their strength, but also their weakness. The facility shook as explosions sounded outside. Johnson rushed in. 3 more Vordax ships have entered atmosphere. They're targeting the transmission array. Bradley turned back to Montgomery. Admiral, we need reinforcements here immediately. Already inbound, she assured him. ETA 20 minutes, just keep that transmission going. The screen went dark as another explosion rocked the building. Bradley moved to the window, seeing Vordax landing crafts touching down around the perimeter of the facility. Security personnel engaged them with whatever weapons they had, but they were outmatched. 8 minutes until the transmission is complete, the lead technician reported. Bradley turned to Johnson. Get everyone non-essential to the emergency bunkers. You go too. Sir, with respect, that's an order, Lieutenant. Someone needs to make sure this data reaches Miller if we fail here. Bradley's tone left no room for argument. Johnson hesitated, then nodded sharply. Yes, sir. He paused at the door. It's been an honor, Major. After Johnson left, Bradley accessed the facility's defense systems. The automated guns were keeping the Vordax at bay for now, but they were advancing methodically, destroying each defense point. Major, Williams called over the comm. I've been studying their attack pattern from the security feeds. There's a weak spot in their formation on the east side. Good work, Williams, Bradley replied. Stay put and keep monitoring. Bradley directed the remaining security teams to reinforce the east side defenses. His wound was bleeding again, making it hard to focus, but he pushed through the pain. 6 minutes remained on the transmission. The doors to the command center burst open as a Vordax soldier entered, firing a plasma weapon. Bradley dove behind a console, drawing his sidearm and returning fire. The alien's multiple eyes made it difficult to target vulnerable points, but Bradley's experience served him well. 3 precise shots brought the Vordax down. 5 minutes remaining, the technician called out, his voice shaking. Bradley checked the perimeter cameras. The Vordax were nearly through their defenses. They would reach the transmission array before the data transfer was complete. An idea formed in Bradley's mind. Desperate but possibly effective. He accessed the facility's main computer and began programming a modified version of the neural disruptor that Dr. Patterson had designed. The Montana facility's powerful transmitter could broadcast it across a much wider range than their portable devices. What are you doing? Asked the technician. Giving us a chance, Bradley replied, continuing to work. Their neural network is vulnerable to specific frequency disruptions. If we can broadcast on that frequency using this transmitter, we could temporarily disable them, the technician realized. Not just temporarily, Bradley said. Patterson discovered a resonance effect. If the disruption is maintained long enough from a powerful enough source, it could permanently sever their connection to the hive mind. The facility shook again, more violently this time. Alarms blared as systems began to fail. 3 minutes on the transmission, the technician reported. But they've damaged the cooling systems. The transmitter will overheat before completion. Bradley looked at the neural disruptor program, now ready to deploy. Then, at the transmission status. A choice had to be made. Override the safety protocols, he ordered. Route all power to the transmitter. Sir, that would mean, I know what it means. Bradley cut him off. Do it, then get to the bunkers with the others. The technician worked quickly, then hesitated. The override requires authentication from the command terminal. Someone needs to stay and maintain the connection manually. Bradley nodded. I know. Go. After a moment's hesitation, the technician left. Bradley was alone in the command center. He activated the override and watched as the power levels climbed dangerously high. The transmission accelerated, but so did the temperature in the transmitter array. 2 minutes, the computer announced. Outside, the defense perimeter had been breached. Vordax soldiers were entering the main building. Bradley sealed the command center doors and continued monitoring the transmission. His comm unit activated. Major, this is Captain Sanchez. Earth defense fighters are incoming, ETA 4 minutes. They'll be too late for us, Bradley replied calmly. But not for Earth. Make sure Montgomery gets our findings on the neural network vulnerability. A moment of silence. Understood, sir. It's been an honor. The doors to the command center began to melt as Vordax cutting tools burned through. Bradley checked the transmission, 85% complete. The transmitter temperature was reaching critical levels. 1 minute to transmission completion. Warning. Transmitter failure imminent, the computer announced. Bradley made his final decision. He activated the neural disruptor program and rerouted it into the same transmission stream. The modified signal would go out with the data package, transmitted to every military command on Earth. The doors gave way. Vordax soldiers poured in, led by a commander larger than the others. Bradley raised his weapon and fired, taking down 2 before a plasma bolt struck the console beside him, sending him sprawling. The Vordax commander approached, looking down at Bradley with its multifaceted eyes. You have caused much trouble, human, it said in its melodic voice. Bradley smiled through the pain. You don't know the half of it. The computer chimed. Transmission complete. Warning, system overload imminent. Bradley pressed the final key on his terminal. The neural disruptor signal increased to maximum power. The effect was immediate. The Vordax soldiers froze, their bodies trembling as the signal disrupted their neural connections. The commander staggered, its forearms flailing. "What have you done?" it gasped. "Severed your connection," Bradley replied. "You're on your own now, just like us humans have always been." The facility's transmitter reached critical temperature, systems failing throughout the building, but it didn't matter anymore. The data was out. Earth's forces had what they needed. As the Vordax commander collapsed, Bradley closed his eyes. His mission was complete. Across Earth, the effect of the neural disruptor spread through the Vordax forces. Ships lost coordination, soldiers became confused and disoriented. Earth's military, forewarned and prepared thanks to Bradley's data, launched a coordinated counterattack. Admiral Montgomery, watching from her command center as Vordax ships fell from the sky or retreated in disarray, said quietly, "Well done, Omar." In the years that followed, as humanity rebuilt and strengthened its defenses, the story of Major Omar Bradley spread throughout the planet and beyond. When humans finally ventured into deeper space, they discovered something remarkable. Their reputation preceded them. Among the stars, alien species spoke in hushed tones of the humans who had defeated the mighty Vordax collective, and they feared the name of Major Omar Bradley, humanity's guardian, who had sacrificed everything to save his species and change the course of galactic history forever.